and insults the spirit of grace. So when you're saying basically that God has made you a homosexual, what you're basically, one, you're taking his name in vain.
Yeah.
Because you're lifting him up and assigning something to him that he does not do. God is not the God of confusion. He doesn't make men and make them want to be women. It doesn't work that way. But what the whole argument has reassigned, one, the message of the Bible to the church, who, rightfully so, has failed to represent what they preach to a great degree. But that does not negate, nor does it change who God is. And it doesn't change his judgment, and it doesn't change what's going to happen to any one of us who, as the Bible refers to, practices iniquity. If you're practicing iniquity, when you're practicing what? To perfect it? And to perfect iniquity is what? To dismiss it. To be able to say it's not really iniquity. So, anyway, I kind of went off on a tangent there.
Perfect way to end the segment.
I'm sorry?
That's a perfect way to end the segment.
Yeah, it is, because we got to go to a break. When we come back, though, I'm going to get into this article from that was written about Margo Kaplan, because based on what we just said, we're going to take the liberal argument, and we're going to see how far the liberal argument goes. So stay with us, guys, right here on the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be right back. You can catch all our show archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. Since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish and get the best deal in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call Go Dish to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. Less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Hey, we're back. And you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate. I am John Matthews, your host, mad prophet of the airways, on a mission from God, and that mission is to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state, and we're doing that in force today on the Conservative Syndicate. We're talking about immorality right now, and the evolution of immorality in this country in regards to not only just its effect on society, but how it's become such a potent political tool from the left to pander to and create voting blocks, I guess, where there once was none. That's kind of like where I see this going. And we talked before the break about just this whole idea of deconstructing and redefining immorality by certain segments of society. I think anybody committing, I have met people that are what I call ardent adulterers. Guys that feel like they have to go out and just see how many women they sleep with before they leave this earth. And they justify it very much in the same way as a homosexual would. My wife doesn't give me what I need at home, or
whatever excuse, yeah.
Whatever the excuses are. People have excuses for anything. And what I've seen today also in regard to the church, or even people outside of the church, is that you can take scriptures in the Bible, and if you really if we're really snazzy like our president, you can quote them at prayer breakfasts, and they mean something completely different than what they're supposed to mean. That kind of thing. It's not hard to do. It's amazing to me though how much effort people put into interpreting the Bible wrong, when in actuality it's really very simple to understand if you take the time to read it within the context it's written. So it takes more effort to be wrong than it does to be right, and that's why we hang out on the right a lot. It's easier because everything is pretty cut and dry, black and white, if I can say that without sounding racist. But anyway, this article, let's get into this. This article, I think I forget where I got this from. Oh, New York Times put this out. Margo Kaplan, professor out at Rutgers, Camden. She's a law professor, of course. Get the lawyers in here on moral issues as if they know what that means. And she's also a Harvard graduate, so she must be come out of that same place that our president comes out of. Harvard, who, by the way, used to be a Christian college. Used to be, and still holds some of the tenets of faith, although they don't practice it. Now it's just stuff engraved on the wall, and it makes a good pictured backdrop if you go there and, good for photo ops kind of thing. Anyway, I'm going to read you first couple of paragraphs of this article by Margo Kaplan. Think back to your first childhood crush. Maybe it was a classmate or a friend next door. Most likely, through school and into adulthood, your affection continued to focus on others in your approximate age group, but imagine if they did not. By some estimates, 1% of the male population continues long after puberty to find themselves attracted to prepubescent children. These people are living with pedophilia. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, that's pretty much how you would say it.
My Bushisms kick in here sometimes. Okay, pedophilia. We'll call it that. Pedophilia. It's easier for me to pronounce that way. Okay. A sexual attraction to prepubescence that often constitutes a mental illness. Unfortunately, our laws are failing them and consequently ignoring opportunities to prevent child abuse. What she's saying is, as she goes on to say, is that the sexual deviant in all of us, an article written by a psychologist, Jesse Bering, writes that people with pedophilia aren't living their lives in the closet. They're eternally hunkered down in a panic room, meaning that they inherently know that they're wrong, but they can't seem to stop it. Now, she goes on in her article to talk about the idea that this is something that could be inherited. It is maybe she doesn't even say that. She says it could be in the physical makeup and psychological makeup of a person, and therefore pedophilia should be treated as a disorder rather than a crime. Now, I would agree it's a disorder. But what she's getting at is that by prosecuting people that practice this and molest children and abuse them or whatever combination takes place, that what we're actually doing is we're hurting not only the pedophile, but we're hurting the children.
Hurting the children.
We're hurting the children because if we treated these people as they should be treated, then obviously they wouldn't be out abusing children. I guess that's the thought here. Okay.
Well, that's just like ISIS. If they only had jobs, they wouldn't go out and blow people up and cut their heads off.
Yeah. So what she's talking about is, she goes on to say in this article, there's no question that the extension of civil rights protection to people with pedophilia must be weighed against the health and safety needs of others, especially kids. So now we're talking about the civil rights of pedophilias.
Pedophilia.
Just think about that for a minute. The civil right, she's claiming here that there is a issue of civil rights to people who molest children. Now, does that mean that civil rights should be protected? I mean, when you throw that word around, when you throw the word civil rights around, you're talking about protecting civil rights. You're not going to assign a civil right to something for the purpose of destroying it, you're going to do it for the purpose of protecting it. Am I not right?
Yes, protecting it. Well, she goes a step further, though, John. She says that basically we should use the Americans with Disabilities Act to help these people with pedophilia tendencies because, they're being harmed.
Yeah, well, see, this is my main point. That's a valid point. Here's my main point in this, because I want to take this where this girl is obviously taking us, but nobody is recognizing. The idea here is that we're not talking about whether it's a disorder. I'm not really talking about whether it's even a crime. What I'm talking about is this woman is laying the same foundation for every other act of immorality in this country, and that is it's a civil right. That means they are endowed by their Creator to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So pedophilia would probably fall in that pursuit of happiness category, and that means that it really isn't wrong. It really can't be. You can't really talk about molesting and abusing children as being wrong if the people that do it and you prosecute them and you punish them for it are having their civil rights violated by you doing that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Well, I mean, it doesn't make sense, but
I understand. I understand where the bunny trail you're taking us down.
Yeah. So if we are going to entertain that, and we'll play the devil's advocate here for just a moment, and we'll say, okay, pedophilia is a civil right, and if it is a civil right, then by every definition of every other application of a civil right, we need to protect these people from being discriminated against, prosecuted, or punished for what they do.
Well, yeah, I think we could probably say the same things for, I don't know, arsonists.
Yeah, well, yeah, we can talk
they
about
just like the pretty flames.
Yeah, or how about polygamy?
Yeah.
If I want more than one wife, I can just simply claim, well, you know what? My DNA makeup says that I've got to have more than one wife.
And I'm pursuing my happiness, so what's wrong?
Yeah, and I'm pursuing my happiness, and that's a civil right. I have the right to have as many wives as I want. Okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And even if society has in the past seen this as morally wrong, well, what do they know? They're just haters. They're wife haters. In fact, they're psychological wife beaters. If you want, think of how many women I could make happy by being their husband.
Yes, exactly. That's
okay,
true.
So you're depriving potential wives of being happy by living in a house with other wives, of which I'll just share the bed with, and we'll all share the responsibilities of all these children that we have. You know, I like John Hagee's take on polygamy. He said the Bible says no one can serve two masters. So,
whoa.
But the point being here is that we could take this basic argument that this woman is presenting us on what we know to be an atrocious, horrific crime, and even if everything she's saying is true, even if we gave and conceded the points and said, well, maybe they're born this way, well, it doesn't take away from the fact that it is still a heinous crime for and I also notice here she only talks about men. She doesn't talk about women. But the point being, it's still wrong. It's still immoral, whether or not it's inherited, whether or not it is part of a physical makeup, a psychological profile. And you're telling me what you're basically doing is you're trying to acquit them from guilt, of having any guilt behind it.
It's not their fault, man.
Yeah, it's not their fault, and therefore we need to be treating them differently. And instead of punishing them for their crimes, we need to work more on rehabilitating them, which in and of itself is a contradiction. Because if we are rehabilitating them, are we not violating their civil rights? See, if we say, well, you're not supposed to really do this. We know it's in your physical makeup or your psychological